There is another way of looking at the world. This can be simply summed up just generally, that there's always another way of looking at the world. But we want to also recognize that there is a way of looking at the world that is in favor of your joy, of your happiness, and of simply just having a good life, right? being good self stuff. It really is about looking at the way in which you look at the world, your perception. That's what I refer to it as. And that your perceptual world is all determined by what you value in your mind. So as much as we've been looking at, I'm not a victim of the world I see, and I'm not because I am the inventor of the world I see, and now we see there is another way of looking at the world, that there is always a better way. There's always a way that's more conducive to our happiness. And so it especially points out, if you have any distraught time within the day, to get to this as quickly as possible, there is another way of looking at this. There is another way of looking at this. Now, you don't have to completely be aware of what that other way is right now. We just want to take baby steps. And this essentially is showing the willingness. I'm willing to find the better way. I'm willing to see that there's a better way of understanding this, of experiencing this, and so on. So it can get very confusing when you have all the variables of life. So many different variations come into play. Kids, family, work, the variations in co-workers, bosses, authority figures, spirituality, trying to understand this crap. So many different variables come into play, right? So many different things and opportunities that you get triggered by, and things touch you in the weird ways, right? And they just push buttons you didn't realize you had. There is another way of looking at that, every single one of them. So if there is always, essentially, it's about your mind right in that moment. So if you have a trigger, if you have an upset, whatever it might be, right in that moment, yes, there is another way of looking at this. Now, when you get familiar with this and you get practicing it and learning how to use it, you can essentially change your mind once you recognize you don't want to be feeling this way. You don't want to be in this argument, this provocation, or whatever it is. And you, instead of even taking days or weeks or months or just ruining your life because of it, you can do it in a matter of seconds. You just simply recognize, oh, there's a conflict here. There's some sort of a battle going on. And you just simply recognize, oh, maybe I am perceiving it wrong. Well, I am perceiving it wrong because I'm not happy, because I'm not in joy about this. So there must be another way of looking at it. My mind and perceiving in the world is the one thing that is off. It's not the world. It's not the universe. It's my correspondence with the world. It's my correspondence with the universe. If that's out of sync, then happiness is naturally out of sync as well. You can't be aware of joy if you're thinking that you are the only thing that's different from the rest of the world. You have to recognize that you are in and of, and there is no difference between the inner and the outer of the world. That means it's all the same thing, and that you're experience the same thing. That means when you see it out here and it seems like a conflict between what's in here and what's out here, sure, you can say, like I hear some things about selfishness. You're so selfish. And it's interesting when people say you're so selfish, and yet they think they're not being selfish themselves. I mean, I understand, yes, they might be more selfish, justifiably, it's understandable. But at the same time, they're saying me, and what are you saying? Me. You're so selfish, me. Okay? So it takes one in that sense to know one. And so you actually can recognize that if I stop and surrender, then the war is no longer there. This is a lesson for me to learn. And that this whole world experience is all about my lessons to learn. And so this life I call A Course in Miracles is training you to be able to change your mind in any sort of way to face not just any problem, not just any difficulty that you understand, but also what you call the laws of physics, and being able to change your mind about what you experience in the laws that can't be broken. So yes, this is a psychological course right at first. And then it goes into spirituality and really experiencing this unification, spiritual essence. And then the last, say, barrier is also recognizing that there is a degree in which actual miracles are possible. And yet it's not the reason for doing this, but it is a good motivator, that's for sure, of getting you through this course. But it is essentially recognizing what you are is the dreamer that has invented all the situations and all the worlds and all the physical laws that seem to be taking place.